this is Samantha from Education USA. Thanks for joining us on your Saturday morning. I'm sure you'll find that this session will be well worth it. Our participants today are joining us on their Friday evening, so we extend our thanks to them for joining us. My name is Samantha Jackson. I'm the Education USA advisor out of the US Consulate in Melbourne. I'll be leading today's session as the moderator. I'm also joined by Ron Mitchell, my colleague from Education USA Wellington. He'll be supporting me through the program, and we'll be chatting you at the end in the Q&A. In regards to today's session, a couple of housekeeping items. This session will be recorded today, and we'll upload it to our YouTube session soon so that you can refer to it again. Today's session may run a little bit over an hour. We want to make sure that we address everyone's questions in the Q&A that will end today's session. If you have questions today, we do encourage you to put it in the Q&A tab that is at the bottom of the Zoom screen. Also, if you're brave enough to share our question live, I would love to unmute you later in the session in the Q&A. And again, you can raise your hand at the bottom of the Zoom screen as well, or send me a message in chat. Today, you'll have some great information shared with you. We have staff today joining us from Carleton College, Claremont McKenna College, Davidson College, and Middlebury College. They're going to introduce themselves to you throughout today's session. And what's really great today as well is that we have current students that are also joining us. We have Jackson on screen right now, and he'll be joined later in the session by Saskia and Cassie, who are here to really talk to you about sharing their experiences, and they'll be joining us in the Q&A today as well. So do enjoy today's session, ask questions, sit back from the comfort of your homes, and let me hand it over to Karen to kick us off.
Thanks, Samantha. We're going to share a bit of a PowerPoint with you just to give you some visuals here. You know, we are 4 of the top liberal arts colleges in the country in the US. That's shorthand for liberal arts and science colleges. And so we're here to start talking with you today a little bit about what makes a liberal arts and science college and why we travel together. It's a very specific style of education based in high touch, small class, discussion-based educational settings, really immersive learning. And we hope that students will explore the wide range of possibilities across various disciplines. There is a misconception that liberal arts focuses on the arts. And of course, we have wonderful arts departments, but we also have fantastic STEM programs, humanities, and social sciences are some of our most popular majors. The other thing to know about an undergraduate college is the focus is on the undergraduate. So these are essentially universities with only undergraduate students. So as a student at these colleges, you would not be competing for any sort of resources with graduate level students. There's lots of opportunities for research. You will get to know your professors really well in these small classes. They are all doing research and usually love to have undergraduate students join them to help them with that, those projects. So they hope to inspire you. They hope to teach you the transferable skills that will serve you well in whatever career path you decide on in the future. Okay, next slide. Another important aspect of a liberal arts and sciences college is that you're going to be living together with all the people who you are attending college with. And so all of our colleges offer 4 years of guaranteed housing. We encourage you to live together, learn from each other, explore each other's cultures, backgrounds, history. You're coming from all over the world, and we celebrate that. Let's see, so your housing and your meals are taken care of. You don't have a lot to worry about except for the colleges, the classes that you're taking. And so you have time to sort of really delve into the things that you're studying each semester. There are hundreds of clubs and organizations that you can be a part of, and this is sort of as important as your academic life at our colleges. We want you to explore sort of all the different facets of your life, get involved, learn new skills, learn about other people. And we are very interested in making sure that you have a successful experience at our colleges. And so we all have very high graduation rates, and we do that through lots of support services and ISSS offices that work specifically with international students to make sure you have what you need. In our case, Jackson here has been involved in our international orientation for a few years now, and so he can speak to that a little bit later. What do you do with a liberal arts and sciences degree? We're going to talk next with with Brian about the outcomes that you might see after a liberal arts and sciences college education.
Thank you, Karen, and good morning to you all. My name is Brian Swan. I'm with Carleton College. And as Karen mentioned, the academic sort of focus of liberal arts college is to give you a broad set of skills, right? Skills that are transferable beyond what your intended major is going to be. And when you look at the outcomes for students at liberal arts colleges, you'll quickly see that your career path isn't solely defined by your course of study. At each of our campuses, if you look at the range of majors offered, you'll see some pretty common traits, right? Some pretty common results. You'll see economics majors working in finance and banking and things like that. You'll see computer science majors working in the tech industry, but you'll also find paths that you maybe wouldn't necessarily expect for someone who majors in English or history, philosophy, right? Things that sometimes are looked at negatively when comparing it to highly technical or highly STEM focused sort of fields. But our students are extremely talented at taking what they've learned, taking those transferable skills in terms of critical thinking, looking at problems from different perspectives, and taking those skill sets to many different job opportunities, and are quite successful in those sorts of opportunities. We also do a really great job of bringing that high touch focus to how we utilize our alumni networks and our career centers on our campus. We have dedicated staff and dedicated resources designed to help our students network with alumni that are across the globe. And those sort of networks lead to fantastic internship and job opportunities for our students. There's also phenomenal research opportunities at our campuses. The fact that we're focused on the undergraduate experience means that our faculty often are collaborating with our students on research projects. There's also opportunities for students to get involved in independent research and do research in the context of their studies at our campuses. Those sort of experiences are amazing when it comes to applying to graduate school programs. And it's not uncommon to see students from our campuses at some of these top name institutions pursuing their PhD, going to medical school, going to law school, and so on. And so a liberal arts education, obviously whatever you major in, you're going to get a phenomenal content knowledge in that, but you're getting these skills that are transferable, that really prepare you for a lifetime of learning. There's more I could say about the outcomes, but I believe now we're going to talk a little more about our individual institutions. And so I get the pleasure, again, of telling you more about Carleton. Again, my name is Brian Swan. I represent Carleton College. I actually graduated from Carleton many years ago, and I've been working in the admissions office at Carleton since 2008. This is a nice snapshot of our campus. You can kind of see how on the background, there are some farms and there's 2 wind turbines. We actually get 50% of our energy from the wind. And we actually have a geothermal heating and cooling plant on our campus to also further reduce our carbon footprint. But our student body is about 2,000 students representing over 60 different countries, coming from all over the globe. About 11% of our students are international. And sometimes people wonder, what's our best major, what's our strongest department? Among liberal arts colleges, it is pretty unique that about 50% of our students major in math science areas. So computer science and biology are always well represented. But you also have students at Carleton who major in psychology, political science, and international relations. Economics are also very popular, as well as English and history. And regardless of what it is you want to pursue, Carleton is a place that gives you a lot of flexibility, right? There isn't a core curriculum that is really restrictive to you and exploring. You'll find students at Carleton with multiple interests and really living that sort of interdisciplinary sort of process where they can take classes in any field that they're passionate about. The average class size at Carleton is 15, so it's really easy to connect to your professors. It's really easy to connect to your peers. And the attitude of Carleton is certainly one where there's a love of learning that permeates campus, right? Not learning just to have a career outcome, but learning because you're curious, learning because you want to know why the world is functioning the way it is, or could be. I think the other aspect about Carleton that is really phenomenal is that research is required to finish a degree. No matter what your major is, you cannot finish a degree at Carleton without doing what's known as your comprehensive project or your COMPS project. You can think of this like a thesis that you'll research, direct, defend during your senior year. And this work could take you anywhere from 3 to 6 months, but you're through that sort of process, the critical thinking skills you gain, the ability to analyze information from multiple perspectives, the ability to communicate your ideas effectively, prepare you extremely well for a lifetime of learning, regardless of what your career path is going to be. And so all that is a phenomenal experience. But if you ask most Carleton graduates what they love most about Carleton, it's the community of students that exist there. We're very residential, where 96% of our students live on campus. There are over 250 student clubs or organizations, ranging from athletics to the arts, to volunteering, to faith-based activities. But really what I think makes Carleton special is just how people treat each other. It's a very down-to-earth place. It's a very friendly place. It's very welcoming. We're actually not on the coast of the East Coast or the West Coast of the United States. We're in the upper Midwest in Minnesota. And there's a phrase that sometimes people use to describe how people treat each other in Minnesota called Minnesota nice, where people are very friendly, really warm to each other, even if you're a stranger. And certainly that attitude permeates campus and influences how students really interact with each other. There's more I could tell you about Carleton, about their traditions, about the great opportunities for our students, but I'm running out of time. I'm going to pass it on to Jen.
Right. Hi, everyone. Hi, my name is Jennifer Hirsch. I'm the Associate Dean of International Admission at Claremont McKenna College. So we are moving from the Midwest to Southern California. We are located about 50 to 55 kilometers east of downtown Los Angeles. We are located in a suburban area, so predominantly residential around us. But we're also within the context of other colleges. So we're in the Claremont Colleges Consortium, which you can see in the middle of the screen here, a little graphic of our campuses. Now, all 5 of us, there are 5 small liberal arts undergraduate colleges, a part of the Claremont Colleges. The others include Pomona College, Scripps College, Harvey Mudd College, and Pitzer College. In addition to CMC. And all of our campuses, as you can see here in the little graphic, are all within a 2.3 square kilometer space. So we fit together like a puzzle. We're a bit compact, but every one of our campuses are unique and different. So we all are independent institutions, but because we're a part of this consortium, we share some resources that make the experience at our institutions seem a little bit more like a medium-sized school, when in reality, we all focus on the liberal arts model, the small intimate setting. So a couple of those resources, as a student at one of the Claremont colleges, you can take classes at the other 4 campuses. We have shared clubs and organizations. Students can eat at the dining halls across the 5 campuses. So there's a lot of great resources there. But as I mentioned, we are independent colleges. And so we all have our unique foundings, missions, values, and the way in which we deliver the liberal arts education. So CMC was founded in 1946 as a men's college, and we went co-ed in the 1970s. But our mission is very much based around the time in which we were founded, which was coming out of World War II. And as a men's college, most of our students were veterans from World War II. Our founders wanted to create a more unique liberal arts model as compared to some of our neighbors at the time, Pomona and Scripps, who came before us, and wanted to ensure that our students, through a liberal arts education, were educated to be strong leaders in business, government, and the professions. So within our academic experience, we have majors across the humanities, social sciences, and sciences, and we encourage that broad exploration, which is a hallmark of a liberal arts model. With that, though, we want to ensure that every student has a strong foundation in understanding economics and public policy. Our founders believed that strong leaders needed to be proficient in understanding how the public and private sectors worked individually, how they work together, how they challenge each other. And that set up CMC's vision to be very forward-thinking, which applies over all of the decades that we've been around and today. And so our students, regardless of where they land in a major and regardless of what professional tracks they actually pursue, they all do have at least an inkling of interest in understanding how economics works, what finance means in their world, and what how public policy and government might influence not just the disciplines they're interested in, but the professional areas that they're excited about pursuing. So we're about 1,350 students. There's about 6,000 undergraduates in total at the Claremont colleges, just to give you some context. Again, as I mentioned, with our academic experience, it's a small, intimate feel. Some of our more popular majors are economics, government, international relations, biology, psychology. A lot of our students find that connection in understanding like public policy. So you think science and public policy and how those things go together, education and public policy, how nonprofits will function as an organization within the context of the public and private sectors. And so we want our students to really start thinking about their practical application of their knowledge as soon as possible. So career exploration is an important component. Students get connected with the Career Center and are given robust, individualized attention and support in understanding how they can use their knowledge to apply in a real world setting, whether that's an internship or an experience that could include research, academic travel, field work, intensive and community service or service work. And so ensuring that whatever they're doing, that every summer they can get out in the real world and put that into action and experience what that means for them potentially in a professional track. But that exploration continues in and out of the classroom. You don't have to declare your major to the end of your second year. And as Brian put so well earlier, your major does not necessarily dictate what it is that you're going to do as a professional and when you graduate. That practical application extends into research as well. As you can see here on the screen, we have 11 research institutes and centers. These are all paid research positions in these various departments that run on many different topic areas such as human rights, international studies, environmental studies, political economy, leadership, humanistic studies, entrepreneurship and innovation. And these are areas where students can again start to expand their understanding of their knowledge and how it's going to apply in a real world setting. Socially, our students are quite dynamic. They're really engaged in clubs and organizations, in which there's 250 of them. We have a integrated housing residential community, which means that within the buildings and in the halls and even among roommates, students of all different class years, the goal is to bring us to create a strong support system for students that are coming in and know that they can integrate with students that have had experiences at CMC, but also be strong mentors and advisors. Lastly, there's a strong focus on civil discourse, dialogue, and debate. This is most noted in our Athenaeum speaker series, where we're bringing speakers to campus every Monday through Thursday night of the academic year to really represent a broad range of opinions, perspectives, and worldviews, and most importantly, to engage our students with those people and those ideas. So CMC is a place where you will have a lot of conversation, dialogue, debate. You'll be real comfortable having challenging conversations, which will prepare you to be a strong leader in the future. So I pass it over to Keilani at Davidson.
Thanks, Jen. Thanks for being with us this morning, everyone from Australia and New Zealand. So glad you're here. My name is Keilani Lofna. I'm the Director of International Admission and Financial Aid at Davidson in Davidson, North Carolina. Currently, we have about 1/3 of our women's basketball team from Australia. That is true. Our assistant basketball coach is from Australia, and he's done a great job of making sure that we have some great Australians on our basketball team. You'll meet Cass later. She's a senior on our varsity basketball team. We're Division I at Davidson, which is a bit different for smaller liberal arts colleges. So students can play at the top of their athletics and also top of their academics. As Karen from Middlebury mentioned in the beginning, the 4 of us are among the top liberal arts colleges in the United States. And a lot of that is because of our academics and our focus on academics and the resources that are available to our students, whether that be research opportunities, creative projects, or the personal experience students receive because everything we do is for that undergraduate student between the ages of about 18 and 22 or 18 and 23, depending on when one starts undergraduate. So Davidson's located in North Carolina. You see that little sunny spot on the map. We have the kind of the southeast corner there. Davidson it's the only one like us in the Southeast, where it's only liberal arts and sciences and it's highly selective. And we have that true focus on the undergraduate experience. That's why I travel with my colleagues from different regions of the United States, because Davidson is the only one like itself in the Southeast. We have a focus on, like my colleagues, that undergraduate experience, and our academics are interdisciplinary, as my colleague Brian said, but we do have a set of what we call ways of knowing at Davidson. And these are subject area requirements that we feel are really important for your growth and academic experience as you go on to leave Davidson to become a human in your communities and also a professional in whatever your professional or academic endeavors, wherever they take you. So part of those are, historical thought, tapping into a part of history. It could be the history of jazz in the United States for one student. For another one of you, it could be the history of Syria pre-Civil War. It could be, women's roles in certain Middle Eastern countries, but it's really your interest in an area of history. We also have one that taps into data science and statistics, because we know that regardless if you go into environmental science or politics and political science or economics, you need to be able to use data and gather data and use that in a way to help either influence or inform people on the research that you've been doing and explain it to them in a way that makes sense to someone who doesn't know exactly what you're studying or what you've been researching. So making sure that you have that background is really important to us at Davidson, because we want you to have this platform where you can leave Davidson and address current global issues from a variety of different perspectives. We don't want you to be siloed in your area of environmental science when you're thinking of global climate change. We want you to be able to think of it from a political perspective, economic perspective, philosophical, and also thinking about what it does to the community, right? So another requirement that we have is justice, equality, and community. And this one was developed just about 5 years ago by our current students. They have a hand in everything that we do, our faculty and our staff, and it really gets at the different injustices around the world, whether it's racial, ethnic, religious, socioeconomic, last name, depending on where you're from, and thinking about, could we ever get to a just society? What does it mean to live in a just society? And what do we need to do to get to a better place globally? And so those are the types of courses that we have, and they run from health disparities in the US and beyond, thinking about digital media and social change, fake news, exploring fake news, environmental health. And so as you can see, these are all in different areas, but they tap into different subject areas. And that is something that's really important to Davidson, is kind of really getting at the different injustices around the world, and how do we make sure they're incorporated in your education, regardless if you study physics, sociology, anthropology, English, psychology. And you'll see our students working on grants that have been given to the college from the National Institute of Health. We have a partnership with the Broughton Institute of Mental Health here in North Carolina, where many of our psychology students intern. And then because of our location, just 20 minutes from Charlotte, North Carolina, we partner with companies such as Ernst & Young. And we actually had a class that was an economics class and psychology class, working with Ernst & Young professionals, EY professionals, on consumer credit fraud prevention. Charlotte's the second largest banking city in the United States after New York. So there is a lot of credit fraud that happens. And we have FBI agents who work within Charlotte. And when our Davidson students had to give their pitch after their research to these professionals, there were FBI agents in the audience. So we really utilize our location and the fact that we're close to a city to make sure we're tapping into different resources and industries. But the big thing about the interdisciplinary education goes far and wide at Davidson. One of my favorites is sports data analytics. We have a faculty member who works with math and sports to bring the two together. And they work with FIFA World Cup. They look at different plays that our college athletes make and think about using different algorithms on what could be a more successful play. And they actually pitch these to the coaches. And so we have students who are working in a variety of different areas. And for Australians and those coming from New Zealand, from the region, I know that sports is a big part of the culture in school as you're growing up. And then as part of the culture, 50% of Davidson students participate in club sports. 25% of our students are student athletes. But then you have another group of students who have nothing to do with sports because it's just not their interest level. So we have a cappella singing groups, and we have the symphony orchestra and jazz ensembles and Davidson outdoors and rock climbing clubs. So the idea of a liberal arts college is it's your definition of fun. The academics are going to be there, and you're going to be surrounded by students who are just as motivated as you are academically. But then you have all these opportunities to make it what you want in that very personalized setting and residential setting. I look forward to having Cass on so she can share her experience with you. And thanks for being here again on a Saturday morning. I'm passing off to Middlebury, who will take you up north to Vermont.
Thanks, Kaylani. It's so nice to be here. I'm Karen Bartlett. I am the Associate Director of International Admissions at Middlebury, and I'm really excited that Jackson's able to join us tonight as well. So giving up a Friday night for us is a pretty big deal for a college student. So thank you, Jackson. And he'll be able to sort of talk about the student experience. And, you know, to start off, you can see from our setting in Vermont, this is a pretty special location within the United States. I love living here, and I think you might too. We have the luxury of space in Vermont. It's a very unpopulated state with just 8,000 people living in our town here. But that means that you have the ability to really focus on your studies, have fun with your fellow classmates, recreate in this beautiful part of the world. We are one of 2 colleges in the country with a ski hill of their own. I know Jackson goes there a lot himself. So I like to sort of start about talking about sort of the global focus of a campus like this, because even though we're sort of tucked into this beautiful little part of the country, the college really does have a very global focus. We're well known for our language programs. The Chinese department is considered one of the top in the world. And that global focus extends to the mission statement as well. And so we are challenging students to think about the world's most challenging problems and address them in their lives and careers. And so language is one way that students are connecting with other people around the world. About 60% of our students study abroad during their time at Middlebury. A lot of our international students don't decide to do that. They are already quite far from home. But what it does do is it sort of raises this level of global curiosity on campus, students who want to know about each other and hear stories from around the world. And so this connection to the natural environment is also important one for us as well. You can see where we are really inspires students to be thinking about the natural world. And so that the world's most challenging problems, you can imagine that a lot of our students are thinking along the lines of climate change, natural resources, global inequity, global health. So you'll see students using their language abilities to navigate some of those issues in the curriculum. Lots of choice. We hope that you explore the curriculum when you get here. There are 1,400 classes to choose from. We operate on a 4-1-4 calendar. So 4 classes taken during the fall term, 4 in the spring term, and just 1 during the month of January when you get to really delve into one topic that's new and unique. The winter term course catalog just came out today, and I was poring over it and imagining what I would take if I were a student still. But it's really exciting time on our campus, and it leaves a little bit of time for skiing as well. So that's sort of a quick overview of all of the 4 schools who are here tonight. You'll hear a lot of similarities because we do believe really strongly in this style of education. But the cool thing is that all 4 of these colleges are in very different parts of the country. So do your homework, think about where you want to be, what kind of climate, what kind of people, what kind of political scene you want. And then, you know, perhaps think about coming to the US to a liberal arts and sciences college. At this point, we're going to talk a little bit about the application process and what it feels like to apply to one of our colleges.
All right, thanks, Karen. I'm back, but I'm going to turn it to Samantha for a quick poll. But before I go, Samantha's going to launch a quick poll for you all.
Here it is, everyone. We just want to have a sense of who's joining us in the room today. If you can quickly respond to those questions so that the rest of today's session can be tailored to our audience, that would be super. We'll keep it on screen for another 30 seconds or so. Fantastic that you're all responding. It looks like people have registered and they may have parents sitting beside them today as well. It looks like we're at 50, we've probably got 80% of students in the room and some parents as well. Thanks for joining us today. I'm just going to end the poll. I can obviously share those results just so we can see them on screen for everyone. Thanks, everyone. And back to Jennifer.
Thanks, Samantha. All right, so we just shared a lot of wonderful information with you about liberal arts colleges and 4 excellent ones here in the US. So the next couple slides, we're going to talk about the admission process and our similarities and some of the constants that you'll see between our processes. Obviously, there's going to be some differences, and we are every college will have a little bit of a different take on some of the things of our admission process, and I'll talk about that in my slide just a little bit and how you can start to decipher some of those differences. But one of the most important things about the US, their small liberal arts colleges admission process is that we do a holistic admission review. So what does that mean? That means that we look at the whole person. This is a little bit different from other processes seen around the world in which academics and the metrics that you come along with, grades, test scores, your academic interests sort of drive the admission process and the admission and the fit for the institution. Well, at small liberal arts colleges in particular in the United States, but this does extend to larger institutions in the US, the holistic admission process means that we look at every single piece of information that you are providing to us, that we are 1, asking and requiring of you, and 2, that you are providing. And so what we're trying to do is look at you as a whole individual. Our goal is to admit a class of diverse people to continue to enhance our communities. As you noticed in the last 20 minutes, we each had spoke about our unique missions, values, the way in which we approach the liberal arts, and most importantly, the different characteristics of our student communities. That's something that we highly value, and we want to continue to foster and bring in students that are going to thrive in our particular approach to college life and the liberal arts education. And so we look for that in the admission process. So in addition to like the context that we're looking at you in, we're looking not just at your academics, we're looking at the school in which you're coming from. What kind of school are you coming from? What is offered to you? And then we assess within that context. The same goes for everything outside of the classroom. So what country are you coming from? What community are you a part of? What family background information is included in your application? And how can we make assessments that are that make sense within that context? And so we're reviewing lots and lots of applications, but we look at every application as an individual person. Our goal is to get to know you as best as we can, not just your academic accomplishments, but what you do in your community and what you'll bring to our college. So a very brief way to look at it is our goal is to bring in students who will contribute to and benefit from our institution. And as you just heard, we all kind of look at ourselves and describe ourselves a little differently. So the way in which we're going to apply a holistic admission process and the very nuanced things that we're each going to look for will look a little different. But overall, that's the way in which we're all approaching this process, is to build a cohesive, diverse, talented community that will make our institution stronger. That means everything in and out of the classroom. So how can you best prepare your application? That's the big question here. As I was thinking about this slide, I had sort of spent my energy on the holistic admission process. And then it occurred to me that, you kind of have to look at this as a holistic process as well. Once you get to the point of applying, you've had 3 years of academics done, check done. You may have taken tests that, were all test optional, so that may or may not be a part of your process. So maybe that's gone or check done. But now it's everything else. So think about yourself as a whole person, and what is it that you are excited to bring to your community now and excited to bring to the community you're going to be a part of in the future. And that mindset will really help you tackle the essays, the supplemental questions. It'll help you tackle the activities list, which can be a bit of a challenge. But we're really looking for authenticity and students that can be that are self-aware and really understand who they are and how they're going to contribute, how they contribute now and how they're going to contribute in the future. And so being able to articulate that in your application, it's not easy, but that's what really helps students shine in a holistic admission process. So thinking about all of those things, not just the metrics or the titles or the awards that you've won. All of those things are important, but the context around those, the work you've spent to get to those accomplishments and awards and leadership positions is equally as important for us to understand. So when you're thinking about how you want to frame yourself in your application, namely your essays and any written components or any meetings and interactions you have with the admission officers, interviews, there's video components, there's portfolios, there's lots of ways that you can put yourself out there. So thinking about how your personal and academic context has shaped your journey, as well as reflecting on those experiences. So we like to know the why and the how, not just the what. So it's not just about describing what you've done, but it's what was the meaning behind that? What was the motivation? Why did you join that club? And why did you end up spending 4 years in it and rising up in the leadership role? Why did you start something, an initiative at your school or within your community? Why did you dedicate all that time and energy? And think about what came of that? How did you impact those around you? Those pieces of information and that sense of reflection stands out for sure. Get to know your colleges. I've referenced this a couple times. The fit and the match piece is really rooted in what is the college looking for. That's how you're going to know. What is our mission? What are all those differences that you heard the four of us talk about? How did we talk about leadership differently? How did we talk about our communities differently? That's how we're going to look at our applicants and pull out the qualities that rise to the top for us. So when you hear us talk about that, what resonates with you most? Multiple colleges will likely resonate with you, but where does they fall on your list? Does one stand out more than others? Those kinds of, that kind of reflection and digging deep into the colleges will help you think about deadlines to apply to, and ultimately any questions that you're asked about, why are you a good fit? Why do you want to attend our school? Considering optional components usually add more personal information. So if it's an optional interview, a video response, I recommend considering it, but always ask the college to see where that falls in the priority for them. But if they're offering it as an option, that means they will review it. So if you feel like that's going to add to your application, then I recommend going for it. And then, of course, take your time, enjoy the process. The photo at the bottom made me hope that maybe that'll send some good vibes your way. She looks really happy. She's doing something on the computer. But I take this time to reflect, enjoy, and as you get to know yourself and the colleges, it should be fun at times. So I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Keilani to talk a bit about financial aid.
I think that student in the bottom just hit submit. She was like, yes, I just hit submit on that application. Okay, one more slide before the main event, current students. And I get the fun stuff. So at Davidson, I also oversee financial aid for our international students, our non-US citizens. So I'm going to briefly give you some tips on what you should know about financial aid and as you're navigating the US process, because unfortunately, not every college has the same policy and philosophy when it comes to financial aid. That's the US, right? We like to make it confusing. Every college likes to have its own way of applying, or at least its own policies for certain areas. So know your options. Many colleges will offer need-based financial aid, but not all. These are mostly private colleges, and private colleges that have the ability to offer need-based financial aid. These are colleges like the four of us. They often are private colleges, as I mentioned, because they have institutional or college or university aid. And it often comes from tuition revenue, or it comes from alumni donations. So this is the idea that we want to admit students regardless of their ability to pay. Most colleges and universities in the United States will be need blind if, and this is a big if they're meeting 100% of that calculated need that your family is demonstrating that you have. Many colleges might say they're need blind, but they might not meet 100% of that calculated need. That means that there's going to be a gap. And that's a term in financial aid, is this gap of, sure, we meet 100% of, or sure, we're need blind, but our maximum amount is 20,000 US dollars or 30,000 US dollars when it costs $60,000 or $70,000 a year to attend that school. So knowing what the philosophy is on meeting 100% of need and being need aware can be more beneficial to you than being need blind and not meeting 100% of need. So understanding the college's policy there. And then there are scholarships. Scholarships are usually different than need-based aid because these are based on more of attributes in your application or personal attributes or special talents that you might hold. So there could be special talent scholarships such as music or theater or creative writing, studio arts. It's also good to understand what colleges actually offer scholarship, because if you use the common application or coalition application, there's a checkbox that makes it really easy to check the box. Yes, I want to be considered for scholarships, or yes, I want to be considered for merit aid. Now, if the colleges you're applying to don't offer any of that, then you need to understand what can your family afford, and do you need to apply for need-based aid? So really understanding it, and it will be institution by institution. There's also athletic aid. So Davidson is a Division I college, meaning Division I in athletics. That's the top division within the United States for athletics. There are 3 different divisions. 2 offer financial aid. That's Division I, and Division II. I'm sorry, 2 offers athletic scholarships, Division I and Division II. So understanding what are the limits for athletic scholarships, what level of your athletic ability do you need to have in order to be considered for an athletic scholarship, and then understanding the recruiting period based on the NCAA timeline. Now, Samantha Jackson with Education USA in Melbourne does an amazing job of setting up a session at least once a year, sometimes twice a year, that it focuses solely on NCAA and being recruited as an international athlete. So if that is something you are hoping for, or that's going to be part of your process, I would contact Samantha Jackson to ask when she might have the next session, so you can understand what it means to be recruited to play athletics and play sports in the United States. The next point I have there is general. Some colleges will give you a general scholarship based on your grades or based on a test score. Many colleges in the United States have gone test optional or test free, meaning we're not looking at ACT or SAT scores. Historically, that was part of this general scholarship process. So kind of understanding what is available at each school and what is the limit of your family, knowing that in the United States, education is very expensive. On average, a private school could be $75,000 US dollars per year. Keep in mind this includes your tuition, your room, your meal plan, so your board, US-based medical insurance, a stipend for books. So that overarching cost is what we call cost of attendance. It's what we estimate a family will spend for 1 year on education. Many students are on either need-based financial aid or scholarships at our schools. So it's just determining what is available at the schools that you're most interested in, and is there a limit to the amount? And if there is a limit, can your family afford what's not included? And then also knowing the deadlines for the application and the financial aid application. And then are there renewal policies? Is it good for 1 year, or is it going to be good for all 4 years? Do you have to maintain a certain grade point average or take certain classes to maintain that level of financial aid or scholarship? I'm happy, if you have questions about this, I'm happy to answer questions generally about financial aid here, or you can get my email address from Samantha Jackson. She's also going to post a one-pager, which has our contact information from all of us. So that's it on financial aid. A lot of information, a short amount of time, I know, but we're going to get to the students because I know that's the really exciting part. Thanks again for being here. Samantha, are you taking the lead on this part with our students?
Yes, sorry everyone, I should be able to find my mute button, but Kaylani, why don't you stay on screen, and Cassie, if you can join Kaylani and myself, that would be super.
Hey, how's it going?
There she is, Cass Gould, Davidson Senior. Fantastic.
Let's
Are you
just,
there, Cass? A little blurry.
Yes, yeah. Can you see me? Hear me?
Nope. There we go. There you are. I see you now. Great. Maybe your finger was over the, oh, it went back.
Oh, there we go. My bad. I got it.
Gotcha. Great.
I should know how to work Zoom by now.
so Cassie, thanks for being with us today. We really appreciate it. I know we've had a little bit of communication with you in preparing for today. So we're going to let you start and really just talk about what your experience is like at Davidson. Kaylani and I will be with you and we'll help you with some questions. And if you're joining us today and logged in and you've got any questions for Cassie, we'd love to bring you off mute, or you can type them in the Q&A. So Cassie, you're now a senior at Davidson. Talk to us about, being a basketballer and balancing being a student athlete.
Yeah, so like I said, my name's Cass, and I'm a senior here. I'm an environmental studies major, and I'm also a member of the women's basketball team here. So a big part of my decision to come over here was for athletics, and so that I could be a student athlete and not only pursue elite sports, but also get a great education at Davidson. Yeah, so that was a big thing for me, and I thrive off change. So I really wanted to go and experience like kind of a new culture, see new things, see the world, and like do that through my education. I picked liberal arts college. In particular, I know this is kind of what it's about at the moment, but I want a holistic education. And I know a lot of students in Australia like kind of get to that point when you're in year 12 and you have to choose like one course to be in. And at that point, I finished my VCE and I was like, I think I had agriculture listed at the top and then like some other random course. And a big part of it was like, I didn't know what I wanted to be. And so I specifically picked a liberal arts college, like not only for the basketball here, but the education. Like I spent my first 2 years trying courses in all random different subjects, doing research, getting like grant applications, doing all different things until I worked out that I wanted to be an environmental studies major, which is still a pretty interdisciplinary field.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct, Cassie. The ability of you not having to pick your major at the end of doing year 12, and now you're obviously an environmental major. I know when we asked you to do this session, and I'll have Kaylani lead the next question, when you're talking to fellow Australians that are thinking about this idea, what do you think? Do you wish you had have obviously had this information session when you were deciding? Or what tips can you share if they're sitting today with their parents and thinking about this idea?
Yeah, I definitely think I would have benefited from a session like this. I kind of like stumbled into coming to college in the US because I was going to stay home and play pro. And then I ended up like my recruiting. That's a whole nother story, but ends up getting recruited pretty late. And then the decision to come over the US. And to your question, when I hear someone saying that they want to pursue education or even athletics or something like that in the US to come to a college over here, I get super excited because all the different opportunities and the experiences I've had and the things I've learned like just wouldn't be the same. And yeah, it's just like super awesome. So I'm like happy to help anyone that kind of wants to get over here. And I guess some tips I would have if like you're sitting down trying to decide whether you want to go. I think a lot of like, so I know a lot of people in the basketball community that have come over here. That's kind of like my specialty. And I know the people that enjoy their time and get the most out of an experience like this are the people that do their researches on what college. And when you're looking at what colleges you want to go to, like you probably said this a million times, like do pros and cons list. It sounds boring, but you have to find a place that fits exactly what you want. For me, I'm going to be here for 4 years. Like this summer, I didn't get to go home. So like 4 years, I want to be at a place where I love the people, I love the town, I love like what I'm learning, because that's a big part of it. Like people who come over here and don't enjoy themselves are the ones that didn't do research and didn't find a place that like exactly, and that's nothing to like, it might be a really, really awesome college, but it just doesn't fit who you are. Like I came to Davidson because I wanted a small town. I have a host family and I have grandfriends, like American grandparents. And like, I couldn't do that if I went to a big school, but other people will thrive at a big school. So just know yourself and then pick a college on that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's brilliant, Cassie. I'm going to hand it to Kaylani in case she's got one question you want to address, and then we'll pass it on. But you'll be joining us at the Q&A at the end, so she's happy to answer more questions. Over to you, Kaylani.
Great, Cass. I have one question because I know you've really benefited from the grant opportunities or internship opportunities. Like you said, you didn't get to go home last summer. And that could be a surprise to some students. They get to a college and they think they might just study and play their sport, or they're just there to study, but then all these grants are available. Can you share with us a couple of the grants and what they were for and what you did, or internships or research?
Yeah, of course. I definitely coming over here had no idea about the whole grant system, and to be honest, like how much money is available for students to pursue things that either help their career, help the community, and that sort of thing. So between my freshman and sophomore year, I applied for this grant that I found out existed in the international department at Davidson, and it's called Meet My World. And it's an awesome thing. Like an alumni donated a bunch of money to basically help students share their experience of their home country with someone they've met. So like the girl I roomed with freshman year, we still room to this day together. We became best friends. And I actually got the opportunity they gave us a grant to travel back home to Australia. And I got to take her around for 2.5 weeks. And like, we went all up and down the East Coast and like into the middle up to Darwin, and just like show her what it was like. Like, I've been living in her country for 8-10 months, and then I got the opportunity to show, and like that wouldn't have been possible. Like, everyone knows it's expensive to travel back and forth, and for someone that had helped me through my experience like in America, to be able to come home, meet my family, those kind of things, opportunities that you don't really get. So that was super cool. And then we had to like do a presentation and that kind of thing. And then the next 2 years, so between my sophomore, junior and senior year, I applied for a grant through our career development center, and they have a bunch of different grants for like different careers, kind of just different fields that you're in. So I know a lot of my friends have got grants to do research here, or like in biology and chemistry and that, but like I said, I'm an environmental studies major, but I'm a social science, so more in community engagement and the intersection of like social justice and the environment. So when I went back home the second time, I did an internship with an environmental social enterprise back home, and Davidson paid for me to do that, like to go home and do an unpaid internship with a nonprofit, which was really cool. And then this year I stayed here and I got another grant. Like, it was like 2 separate grants that joined together. Like, one, I could only get so much money, but I had other costs that I had to fulfill staying here, like housing and food and that, and they were able to like fulfill that, which was really cool. And that was with another nonprofit food pantry in the local area. So many opportunities, like, yeah, beyond what I could explain.
Great. Thanks, Cass. So will you stay on for Q&A? I know students will probably have questions. All right.
Yeah,
great.
for sure. I'll be here.
Okay, fantastic. So we're going to have Jackson come on screen now. And while he's coming on screen, look, we know that student athletes, thanks, Cassie. We know that student athletes is a really prominent pathway to the US. But we also know that a lot of people just want to go for academic entry. And again, the US college pathway can be a great entry as well. So we've just had Jackson come on screen, and Karen's there as well from Middlebury. So I'm going to ask Karen to come off mute. And Jackson, if you want to start, talk about your experience, what you're doing at your campus. We'd love to hear.
Sure thing. Thanks so much. Hi, everyone. My name is Jackson. I'm a senior at Middlebury College. I went to Melbourne High School back in Melbourne, and I've been in the US ever since graduation, essentially. I am a double major in mathematical sciences and Chinese, but I've also taken classes across film, Black studies, environmental science, and a ton of different majors. While at school, I've worked with admissions, student government. I work at our climbing gym. I'm a barista at our cafe. And like Karen mentioned earlier, I spent a lot of time on the ski slopes. I'm a ski instructor. And I find that not only do I have just a blast of a time here, similar to what Cass was saying earlier, the liberal arts in Middlebury in particular provided me the opportunity with, more freedom to figure out kind of what I wanted to study. Back in Australia, I was considering either like biomed at UniMelb or a law biomed dual degree at Monash, and I am not studying either of those things now, which is probably good that I figured out more so what I wanted to do. And just, a general, piece of outreach to all of you that, if you're interested in this process, like Cass was saying, really do the research, figure out what you want before embarking on the process.
So Jackson, and I'll hand it over to Karen to finish up your section. I think it's really interesting. You're obviously, thinking about a University of Melbourne or Monash pathway. What made you consider a US option? And that's part A of the question. And part B of the question is, are you glad you did?
Those are two fantastic questions. Yes, to answer the second one, yes, absolutely. But those doors aren't closed either. Those are, at least within the US, typically thought of as graduate programs, which there is a lot of there's a lot of merit in starting those beforehand, at least in the way that US higher education treats those kind of degrees. Usually you study, or ideally you study a more holistic group of classes before moving on to more specialized things. Obviously you specialize in your undergraduate education too. But at least law and biomedicine are so specific and require a really significant amount of buy-in immediately. And I think that was, to answer your first question, maybe why I wasn't quite ready. At 17 or 18, when you're ranking your courses based on your ATAR and VCE, it's really intimidating, and it doesn't feel like there's a lot of mobility oftentimes between those courses, with pretty stringent application processes to switch from course to course. It's not always just the easiest thing that you can do. Whereas at liberal arts colleges specifically within the US, you can take whatever class and whatever discipline, and oftentimes you're forced to take classes in a ton of different disciplines to really fill out your course offerings. And so, yes, I'm absolutely glad I did it. Again, I could still do biomedicine, but I'm thinking more of, PhD tracks for mathematics or even Chinese literature. There's so many things open to you when you've, studied at least even one class in a specific field at this level. And so, yeah, I'm immensely grateful that I decided to take a chance, and that, it's all worked out pretty well.
So I'm going to hand it over to Karen, and she's going to lead you through a couple of last questions of your part before the Q&A. And I think what's really interesting is often you'll hear when you research a US college, it's all about a general education, and Americans are well-rounded. So it's very much about that general education start to your program. But Karen, if you can finish off Jackson's section, that would be great.
Yeah, I'd like to ask you, Jackson, a little bit along those lines. You start general and you are sort of distribution requirements, but can you talk a little bit more about how specifically, you got into pretty high level math, pretty high level Chinese? Are these skills that you feel like you're on par with sort of students who might have gone to a larger research university?
Yeah, that's a great question. And to compare and contrast with the Australian system as well, at least at, maybe a Bachelor of Science program, which is, at least for my math major, maybe equivalent at the University of Melbourne, it'll probably be a 3-year program, but you don't really get any breadth classes. I think maybe you'll get one every year, maybe. And so if I had entered that kind of program, I wouldn't have been able to take Chinese. I wouldn't have been able to take a religion class. And so having that breadth might seem like it, is a distraction, or, not what your main major focus is. But the whole point is that that's not the case, and everything is completely interconnected. And so there's so many ways to answer your question. The kind of research that happens between any department at a high level is completely interdisciplinary and intersectional with other departments. And so in my, within math, between my number theory thesis that I'm working on now and my data science class, I'm working on things in conjunction You'll see the same thing with, certain majors and fields require you to choose another major. At least at Middlebury, if you want to be an environmental science major, you have to choose another focus, whether that's policy, whether that's conservation biology, whether that's mathematics. And so it's a little unintuitive at the beginning, but having to take those other classes and, forcing yourself to be well-rounded gives you a more holistic sense of what your major is in and of itself. And so, studying Chinese, it's not just Chinese language. It's also me looking into Chinese research for mathematics. It's me looking into documentary films and making Chinese documentary films, as well as, other general film studies and the kind of social research and social capital you're able to understand through mathematics and any of the STEM fields are so important. And there is merit in, siloing yourself in one particular research field. And as long as you have that open to you, as well as different forms of application between other fields or more social outcome, it's a really valuable process that you're able to glean a lot from.
I feel so lucky to get to work with students and just watch them make use of the incredible sort of resources and programs available to them. So good job, Jackson, and thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks so much. I'm really excited to answer some of your questions and chat with you all.
Thanks, Karen. Thanks, Jackson. We're going to ask Saskia to come on screen. Everyone, she's had a late Friday afternoon class, so she's run out of class to join us today, which is fantastic. I'm just going to bring her on screen and unpin Jackson. Sorry, everyone. So Saskia, thank you very much. I believe you're studying psychology, so you can tell us what we're all thinking. Thank you so much for being here today. You are a resident of Sydney and have joined today's session. I'd love you to just kick it off first. How are you going on campus right now? And share a little bit about your experience. And like the others, Jennifer will lead you through some questions as well.
Sounds good. Thanks, Samantha. I'm excited to be here. I actually don't have Friday classes, so I don't know if that's a unique CMC thing or a good plug, but I ran out of a meeting. I am a senior. I'm a psychology major with a leadership sequence, which is something I think that is kind of unique to CMC, that I was able to tack on to my major to direct it more towards a business psych focus, which is what I'm interested in and what I've just accepted a job in for after college. So on campus, I have been involved in a psych lab that I did research in for 2 years now, or almost 3. And I've been a first year guide as well for the past 3 years. So I have led a trip of first years and we go camping, which has been really fun. Like Samantha said, I'm from Sydney and I hadn't really had any experience in the US before moving here in 2018. So it was definitely a new experience, and kind of as Cassie and Jackson said, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. I wasn't really interested in being pigeonholed into just one area of study like the Australian system so often does. And actually, quite similar to Jackson, I originally was going to look at biomedical engineering, which is hilarious to me now because it's the first thing from what I want to do. So I think that was something that I really enjoyed coming here, even though I wasn't necessarily interested in economics. Now having taken those classes, really feel like I can participate in those conversations and actually understand them, and that benefits me outside of the classroom greatly. But I think my favorite thing about CMC are just the people. Everyone is unique and special, has a story, and brings something amazing to the table. I think that in my first couple of weeks here, I called my parents and really was like, wow, this is my place and these are my people. And to Cassie's point, that was because I was like really nerdy and had an Excel spreadsheet of which colleges were going to be, my colleges. So I think that, you get out what you put into this experience, and I've loved every minute, and I'm sad I'm a senior.
Oh, you covered all the things, Thank you. But I did want to ask, because you mentioned you had an Excel list of schools. So I'm curious, what resonated with CMC? Like, what was the tipping point for you? And what made your final decision?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that similar to Cassie, I wanted a small school. I'm from Sydney, and my sisters and my family had all gone to the University of Sydney, which is a really, really big school. No one lives on campus. And I think I was attracted to the American system of living in a dorm and really having that sense of community that I felt from CMC from the very beginning. So I wanted a small school. I didn't want to be in a big city, and Claremont is kind of that perfect balance to me, where the city of Claremont feels kind of quaint and cute without being in the middle of nowhere, and then LA is only a stone throw away to go to, cool shows, and also the beach is close by. So that was something that was important to me. Being in California, I'm not that far away from home, although I mean anywhere in the US is far away from home. So being just one flight was important to me. I loved the orientation program. I thought that was just very indicative of the investment CMC makes in making sure that you feel like you belong here, that you feel that you have a place here, and helping you to navigate that. I missed the CMC plug, so I'm not sure if you spoke about the orientation program, but if not, I'm happy to answer questions. So that was a big thing, and the size, also being part of the consortium, I'm sure that was brought up. I took classes at Scripps for the first 2 years that I was here. I'm in a class at Pitzer right now, and another one through Keck for science. So I love having all those resources and different opportunities at my fingertips that I wouldn't have otherwise had, while also having the benefit of a really small, tight-knit community where I'm a name and not a number, as I would have been if I was at the University of Sydney.
Awesome. I do have one, hopefully quick question, because I talked a lot about leadership, and it can be a bit abstract. So since you were in the leadership sequence, I was hoping if you could add a couple thoughts on how leadership, our value of leadership plays out here at CMC in the community.
Yeah, I'll try and do it briefly. I know we're kind of pressed for time. I think that I've taken a lot of leadership courses as part of that sequence, and so in theory, we really encourage, to learn how to be a good leader, but then we're also really challenged to put that into practice. Like I said, I was a first year guide for 3 years and part of the core training of that. So I think that the emphasis of leadership at CMC is really the challenge to take what you learn in the classroom and implement it in your life outside of an academic setting. And I think that I felt that from a very early stage here, that the professors demonstrate leadership, but also encourage you to kind of navigate how you would be a leader in your own life, and also leading your peers, leading your professors, and leading the greater community as well.
Thanks.
Of course.
Okay, fantastic. Saskia, we'll bring you back on at the Q&A. I'm actually going to ask is if all the panelists and all the students can turn on their cameras. And Ron, I'm going to have you lead the first couple of questions. There's a question that's come in on the Q&A. And then we're going to ask if anyone from the audience has a question. We'd love you to answer it live. And if there's not many questions coming through, I'm sure we can fill the space as well. So over to you, Ron.
Thanks very much, Samantha, and to all of our presenters and students for being with us today. So there is a question sitting in the Q&A at the moment from Noah. Noah, I'm just wondering if you would like to pop your camera on and come on and ask that yourself.
You can't turn his camera on, but we should be able to unmute him.
Hi.
Hi,
Noah,
Noah, we
do you
can
wanna
hear
go-
you.
Yeah, oh, good. Do you want to go ahead and ask that question? And maybe Samantha or one of our other panelists will be able to address your question.
Yep, that sounds great. I've been talking to my school counselor and just like looking at the student athlete side of things and the scholarships and that. And I came across that you have to have like 16 like spots filled for your subjects that you have to have done from, I think it's year 9 to year 12. And I was just wondering what subjects are actually awarded towards those 16, because I know that there's quite a few that aren't actually awarded. And I was just wondering if we'd be able to find out, or if there was a place where we could find out what subjects are awarded towards those 16 for the scholarships.
Hey, Noah, that's a great question. Where are you located?
Victoria.
Okay, fantastic. So you come to me at my office. So happy for you to contact me after this meeting. I've also put a link in the chat for everyone. We have a brilliant YouTube channel where we're obviously putting this video up after the end of the session. And we have a core course video there as well, which will simplify the process. But happy to have you contact my office because it's within categories of the core courses, easy to explain. You need a certain amount of English, you need a certain amount of math, you need a certain amount of social sciences and other sciences. So it really is a simple process, but make contact with me after this session. We are sending you an after event email to everyone that registered. If you happen to be a student athlete, I'll also include some information there as well. But great question. And we're really glad to hear that you're thinking about being a student athlete, because I think Cassie has shared that it's truly a great experience.
Thank you.
Well, thanks, Noah, and thanks for that, Samantha. So if any of you do have questions, if you're happy to speak to the group, feel free to put your hand up. And if you would rather just type in a question into the Q&A, you're welcome to do that. But yeah, it could be a question for any of the representatives from the colleges that we have here. It could be a question for one of the students who you'd like to hear a little bit more about their experience or their insights. So yeah, please feel free to share any questions you might have.
So while we wait for some of those questions to come through, I'm going to throw it over to the panelists. And look, this can be its own session and take hours to cover. But we're coming up to the application cycle to hand in your applications if you're in year 12 this year. So I want Saskia and Jackson and Cassie to talk about when you completed your application, what was that like, and do you have tips? And if the college reps can talk about, some of the expectations you have when you're reading applications and tips that you can share with today's attendees, that would be super. So I can see Saskia on my screen first. I'm going to pick on Saskia first, then Jackson, then Cassie.
Sounds good. I have to think back on it because it was a while ago now, and I'm glad that process is over. I know that it can be daunting, but I think that my biggest tip is to chip away at it. I was so excited to get into this process, but there's so much information. And so an information session like this, I definitely could have used. I mentioned a little bit before that I was really nerdy and had a big Excel spreadsheet. But I think to Cassie's point, make a list of the types of things that you want, and also the type of person that you think you are. If you thrive in a really big environment, then a larger, state school might be for you. The small liberal arts college experience was something that I found really attractive. So that narrowed my search. And then within that, I was looking at colleges that would fit me. I think that being really authentic and transparent throughout the process as well, especially when you're writing that essay, you want it to sound like your voice. At the end of the day, you're the student being admitted, not anyone else. And I think that if you do that, you'll get into a place that does suit you and one that you can thrive in. And then I would also dive deeper, just past the the stats that get thrown around about, you know, how many students and the student teacher ratio, but go have a look at the classes that are there and have a look at the majors and see what feels right to you and what suits you. Especially extracurriculars too. I'm part of a intramural inner tube water polo team, which is something that I didn't even know existed, but I've done for 4 years now, and it's kind of one of the greatest things. And it's a quirky, unique thing that I wouldn't have otherwise looked at. But these are the things that really give a school its personality. So I would encourage everyone to really, you know, do a deep dive into these schools and get to know them as if they're people.
Okay, Jackson, your turn.
Yeah, I think Saskia hit it right on the head, actually. I guess in addition to that, as a tip on the application process, make sure that you're not just trying to overload your application with things that you're only tangentially interested in. Usually people reading applications are able to really discern what your passions are, and that benefits both you and your application. So make sure you're forthcoming that like, this is my passion. This is X, Y, and Z things that I've done to further this passion, so on and so forth. And again, to Saskia's point, I think you really do want to know yourself and the kind of schools you're looking at. And a good way to do that is, you know, to get in touch with the counselors that are here, who can then direct you to actual students that have maybe the same club interests that you're interested in pursuing at uni, or professors that are doing specific research. You know, all these institutions are fantastic places to do research at an undergraduate level. And so finding professors that do research on, you know, something about like fruit flies, if that's what you're interested in, or whatever your interest may be, that comparatively specific focus will really lend itself to you. And again, you know, there's also the benefit of, oh, I don't know what I want to do, so let's, you know, keep that in the forefront as well, that I just want a good education. Again, you're going to get involved on a residential campus with clubs and activities and student life. And there's, again, a lot to learn about student life, whether it's through social media or talking to students. And so be really proactive in that process. The Excel spreadsheet is great. It's a good thing to have, and make sure you're trying to make those connections and really learn what you can from the people that are there.
Fantastic. Thanks, Jackson. And Cassie, we're going to have you come on. And what's interesting is when Jackson and Saskia have been applying, they just have to worry about the academic fit. So when you're a student athlete, you're looking at the academic fit, and you're also looking at the student athlete fit. And you've got to do two distinct elements of that task. So I think it's really handy that we'll bring Cassie up about that experience. And I know Carlani can support her in some of those questions too. So over to you, Cassie.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. Obviously education is a big part of it, because that's like why I came over here, so I could do my education and basketball at the same time. But if you're a student athlete, you spend majority of your time around the people in a program. And we always jokingly say, but like the 15 girls that are my team are my family over here. And so a big reason why I chose this school was when I came on a recruiting visit, was that I just love the people that I was around. That were so welcoming. And same with the coaching stuff. Like they end up being like your parents away from home, because they're the people you're first contact with, or like your trainer and those kind of things. So definitely for me, and I think for most of you it will be, it's like the people, getting to know the people that you're going to be spending the most time around. That's the same probably goes for Saskia and Jackson, and like the people that you're in contact with at college. Like, do you feel comfortable around them? And like that's a big part of it. And for me, when I actually ended up, the way my recruiting process happens, I only had a few colleges. Like I know some people end up like with a wide array of colleges, whether it's 1 or 2 Div 1 schools and then multiple Div 2 schools. Everyone's process is different. For me, it was like a small batch of Div 1 schools, and picking between whether it's like a big school, small school, like Saskia said, those kind of things. But then, yeah, I obviously had to do the exact same application that all students do, and with the essay and those kind of things. And just throwing out there, one tip that I would have is, the writing was super daunting for me, but just like ask people around you, like ask the people that are on this panel, ask like your school council and those things to read over it, and Saskia said personally, just chip it away at it. Don't leave it till the last minute. Chip away at it. Do your research. Do everything. Like if you really want to do this and you want to travel halfway across the world, like it takes some effort, and like you just have to put forth your authentic self and do what you think is best for yourself. And yeah, I think they're kind of the most important things.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I think it's about also having the courage to do it. So Saskia, Justin, and Cassie, you need some courage, but you've got, a huge support network there to help you as well. So I know it's coming on to 11:15. We've gone a little bit over. I would love the college reps to come on board as well, because they're the people that are reviewing your applications. And what a lot of families don't realize is that they are also helping you find your best fit at a US college. And if you talk to them and they see that institution is not your best fit, they will encourage you to look at elsewhere as well. And they will share some real information. They are happy to be contacted. Their job is international admissions. That means they're helping people like you and your family find that best fit. So before closing, is there any other questions, Ron, before I hand it over to the panelists?
Yep, just one quick question, which is a good one to pass on to them because I don't know the answer specifically for each of your colleges. But yeah, there's a question about how many Australians, and I'll expand on that question. How many New Zealanders do you have at each of your colleges, if you know that? I can say generally that we've got about 1,800 Kiwi students studying in the US at the moment, and they're at over 400 different institutions. So I hope we've got some representation at your schools as well. But yeah, maybe just to get a response to that and a bit of a wrap up, I'll pass over to Brian to answer first.
I get to go first. Well, I want to say we have at least one student from New Zealand and at least one student from Australia. I reached out to our Aussie student who was in ensemble practice tonight, so she couldn't join us. But we try our best to really bring students from all across the world to our campus, right? And we'd love to see more students. That's part of the reason we're doing this, right? We want to see more students from Australia, New Zealand. Having traveled to both countries on my own and visited my friends who are Carleton graduates in those countries, I know there are great opportunities that Carleton education can provide for students from Australia, New Zealand. And so please, we'd love to see more. Please apply.
Well, thanks, Brian. Kaylani, do you want to go next?
Sure, great. Thank you, Ron. We have 6 students from Australia, 5 of whom are on the women's basketball team. So we definitely have a good representation on the women's basketball team. We have one young man from New Zealand. He's on the men's basketball team. We did have a soccer player from New Zealand who graduated a few years ago. So we have the one lone Aussie who is a true full-on student at Davidson, no varsity sport, but so we're looking to find a good balance of more students. I will say all of our current students here who are with us said try to connect with current students. I'm going to put Davidson's link in there, and I know my colleagues all have a similar link they could put in where we make it possible for you to connect with current students. And I think that's one of the most valuable ways for you to get to know our places and to help answer your questions.
Fantastic. Thanks, Kaylani. Karen, over to you.
Thank you. We thankfully have sort of a quick way of asking our computer how many people we have on campus from each country, but it's by citizenship. So my computer is telling me we have 10 Australians on campus, although I think Jackson would tell you that those are probably students who have Australian citizenship, and he's probably only bumped into 1 or 2 who really would call themselves Australians. And same, we have 1 from New Zealand at this point. So similar numbers, we would love to see more. I think there are a lot of, good connections between the 2 countries. I think that a lot of New Zealanders and us Aussies are really thinking critically about the climate and environment, and we have a great place to study that here.
Excellent. Thanks, Karen. And Jennifer?
Yes. So I have a similar system as Karen, just pulled up those numbers. About 8 students coming from Australia. Australian citizenship and or went to school in Australia or New Zealand. So there's a little bit of variety in that group where maybe they're a citizen and went to school in their country, or they've citizenship went to school outside of their country. So some connection to Australia and New Zealand, 8 in total on our campus. But we have recently started traveling, obviously not in the last 2 years, but prior to that, we recently started traveling more in your area. And so that's definitely a goal to continue once we can do that again, to make our presence more known in your communities.
Excellent. Thanks very much. And we would certainly welcome all of you to come and visit to Australia and New Zealand when you're able to do that. But thanks again from me for taking some time to be with us today. Thanks, Saskia, Cass, and Jackson. And Samantha, I'll hand it back over to you to wrap up.
Fantastic. I think, I hope the audience today realizes that we've been really lucky to have the students with us. And before I do formal closing, I'm just going to let them sign off. And if they can share one tip with the audience, what would that be? And Saskia, if you can go first, Jackson, and then Cassie.
Oh gosh. One tip for the whole process, I think be brave and dream big. I wish that someone had told me that this was a real opportunity. I think that initially when I started looking at applying, I thought it was just something out of the movies and I wouldn't actually do it. But this is a real opportunity for you all, and something that's very possible, an incredible education opportunity that you probably wouldn't otherwise have in Australia, particularly being part of small tight-knit communities and living on campus is a big thing. So definitely be brave and be bold and apply. Why not? You have nothing to lose in doing that. And in saying that, do your research and make sure that the schools you're applying to, you feel a connection with and would go. Yeah. And good luck.
Thanks, Saskia. Over to you, Jackson, for a short sign off as well.
Yeah, Saskia, again, hit it right on the head. I'd say maybe be decisive in your decision-making process, whether that's knowing yourself, knowing the schools you're applying to, and understanding the differences between the opportunities available to you, whether that's in the US or in Australia, and what your family thinks is feasible, whether that's financially or socially. So stay decisive.
Thanks, Cassie.
Yeah, probably the exact same as these guys. Be true to yourself in your decision, and I don't know, I guess even if it scares you a bit, just take the leap, because I being here 4 years now, there are so many things that I just know that not only Australia, but just things that I wouldn't have got to do, or opportunities I wouldn't have had if I didn't just take the leap and see where it takes me. You can always go home if it doesn't work out after a year or so. People forget that. If I hadn't taken that step to get here and then found out that I love it so much, I just wouldn't have known. But yeah, good luck, and yeah, get working on those applications.
Fantastic. Thanks, Cassie. Look, on behalf of Education USA, Melbourne and New Zealand, thank you so much for joining us today. To Saskia, Cassie, and Jackson, I think you've been the hit of today's session. Everyone really wants to hear what the student life is all about. So thanks for again being brave, stepping up, and talking to people that you don't even know. To our friends and US colleges that joined us today, Brian from Carleton, thank you very much. Jennifer from Claremont McKenna College, Kailani from Davidson, and also Karen from Middlebury College. They have actually gone out of their way to put together a flyer that we'll be sending out to all participants today. So it will hit your inboxes early next week. As we said, this session will be recorded and will be uploaded soon to our Education USA New Zealand YouTube channel. Again, I encourage you to stay up to date through the Education USA Australia Facebook, our websites, or our YouTube channel. You can just put Education USA and your respective city name in your search tool and you'll find us. On behalf of everyone here joining us, it's been an absolute pleasure. Have a wonderful evening, our friends from America. For everyone else, have a good Saturday morning and good luck with your final exams that are just around the corner. Goodbye.